Good morning, LinkedIn. Welcome to Let's Build Daily. I'm your host, Chris Carolan, here for part 3 today. Don't know how many parts we're going to have at this point, but going to do what it takes to get this Commerce Hub data model map done as far as we can take it right now, at least. Again, the goals of this activity is to, we've got this data model management inside of HubSpot right now. How can we help the HubSpot team? How can we help users best fit Commerce Hub objects into this? Right? Because ultimately we want to create spaces for people to try not to have to click around to do their jobs as they're helping customers internally and externally. So this idea of the one record or one object that the team can work from, with everything in it, all the cards, all the data, that's all driven in large part by associations. So that relates to a really cool update from this week that I'm going to get to in a second. I just had a couple of, housekeeping things. First, I just want to say thanks to all the people that have been reaching out with their feedback on the content. And it's creating a lot more conversations, kind of as expected, right? But, this engagement and content like this, I encourage others to, start doing it themselves if they think there's one person that might get value out of what they have to say or how they approach HubSpot or anything related to getting the most out of HubSpot. We need more education. We need more people on this front line. So I just wanted to say thanks to everybody for their support of the show and the content. I've had a couple of requests for, are you making a repository? Because it's hard to, find anything on LinkedIn after you miss it in the feed. So I do have a hashtag you can follow, the Let's Build Daily hashtag. Yeah, we've got like 11 followers right now. Crazy, I know. But I am trying to make a place. I'm in the process of making a place on YouTube and the website to make it easier to share and access this content. I know I can get a little long-winded sometimes too, so hope to be clipping it up, try to distill it for you a little better. And then next week, doing a little bit of different LinkedIn Live special event with my partner Salim Malouf. Very excited to share what the future holds and how what the next steps are going to be as we pivot from agency to consultancy. How we continue to dive into providing value in the ways that we can to the HubSpot ecosystem, users, partners, and HubSpotters alike, as we all move towards this customer platform and helping businesses grow. So really excited for that next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central. Always good to get on one of these with Salim, and I'm glad we've found our way back to that. So if there's anything you've seen in the feed and you haven't caught, like, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and I can get you a direct link to the topics that you're looking for. If you haven't seen a topic that you're looking for, let me know and I'm happy to dig into it if I feel like I can add value. And then lastly, if you're building stuff, if you're building cool use cases, doesn't have to be apps, but certainly that's where I'm starting as I do some outreach. Let's have you on. Let's have a good conversation. Let's show people how to do better in HubSpot. And so if you're building something special and want to, aren't afraid to get on live and click around and do some stuff, I'd love to have you on. So don't hesitate to reach out. Uh, Back to the matter at hand. Um, so moving beyond this uh, current state of data modeling, let's say, uh, that's very accessible. The team's doing a great job of um, building out this tool native in app. Uh, and honestly, at the end of the day, a tool like this is is a much better way of like providing a user experience that you can click through, and as you can click and provide different layers, and like, okay, we've clicked here, so now let's add the association label layer. Uh, let's add the crow's feet, right? Um, I love where this is going, and I view anything that we're working on together in this community, mapping activity is stuff that supports, the team at HubSpot to, reiterate that these things are needed, that the team is going in the right direction, when they add stuff like this. Um, so with that being said, I mentioned a new update, record customization. Got a huge kick in the pants this week. Finally, if we click on our little help icon here, your entire record page can now be customized in a single place. Yay! One place, not 3, 4, 5 different ways to like update, the left sidebar and the middle side and the middle column and the right sidebar. So, yeah, you can actually build an experience now with everything in front of you, not need like 5 tabs open to keep track, right? So if we jump in here, this is what she looks like. I think it's funny when I first saw it. Um, oh no, that sounds awful, Madeline. I wonder if the team knows this, or is this a caveat in the fine print as we turn this on? Madeline says that wreaked some havoc for my team this week. FYI, when you turn this on, all your saved views get erased. Interesting. I could see, man. I could see structurally why that might be like a required like sacrifice, but man, that would seem to have an impact for sure. If you've done if you've spent a lot of time, which I know Madeline has in this case, uh, designing these things out, and all of a sudden your views go away, if they're team based or permission based, I can't imagine that being an intended outcome. So I'm curious if there's any HubSpotters watching this that want to chime in. Maybe she's experiencing something uh, unique to her or something that's being worked on. Let us know. But for those of us, well, for anybody who wants to move forward with this, it was interesting. And again, I continue to uh, harp on the common language and the importance of aligning on what things are, what they're not, how we say things, how we talk about things, the words that we're using. When I first saw this as unified record view, or what is it called exactly? Let's take a look at the updates because I don't want to lead you astray. So if we do unified, so again, this is a beta that you need to sign up for, or activate rather, a unified record page editor. Now, when I first saw this, I wasn't exactly sure what it was before I saw somebody else, make a post about it. Um, and this speaks to, like, if you are not aware of how it works already, right? Like the word unified, like, needs to be explained because you don't know that it currently exists in 5 different places or however many different places. Until now, the record page customization experience was disparate and disconnected. If you don't know that, then this unified qualifier doesn't really mean anything to you. Um, so I would just, always take time to confirm as you're talking to other people that they know what all the words mean that you say. Uh, Very easy to get off track that way. But so we've got this sweet uh, unified record view. Madeline says it was easily fixed, which is good to hear. And she's excited for the new experience. Always a HubSpot champion, doing great work over there with Butler. But yeah, so we got all this in one place, and this is where, one of the ways, I'm sure the most common way to build this out is that you're on a record, the user's on a record, and maybe they have permission. You probably have too many super admins in your system, so people can come in and do stuff like this. And I'm all about empowering users to do that. But this is the kind of thing that gets built in motion, like as you're flying the plane, if you will, where you're in a record, you're like, hey, I want to see this data. And so let me go to this record view editor and let me find this card, right? So I want to see it. Oh, I can't. I can't see the thing that I want. Oh, because I haven't associated the objects yet. So now I'm going to go associate the objects. And as I do that, it's going to prompt me or ask me if I want to make labels, right? And then I might make some labels in the moment, right? And then I expect somebody else to come in and somehow understand what the hell's going on when they were not a part of that very organic way to build out the view, right? So what makes sense to you, they're like, oh, I want to see, this is where, the understanding the difference between ownership and who's working in the system and when. Like in Madeline's case, she created a great view for the engineering team to come in and help with quotes. That's very different from the other views that the other teams are using, right? Because as we're adding a lot of information into the system, right? And before all this, it was very easy. Like, before we had this overview tab, right? We had an activities feed that went on for days and wasn't, if you were all in on HubSpot, it became a challenge to find and manage information, in that system. And so that's what we're trying to do here, but you can do this in a pre-planned way. And this is where the mapping comes in, right? So one way to build this out is in the moment, organically, as people are using it. At the end of the day, that's the best way to understand how people need to use it so that you can get the right feedback to build out the map the way it needs to be built out, right? Another way, and this is where you can leverage, like if you can find a way to position new updates so that instead of focusing on the newness and the change, you're focusing on the value they provide, and you can get information and learn about usage of the system as you do that, right? The other system or the other update that is slowly being rolled out, and I don't even think this is one of those sneaky ones where it's, I don't know if they've right? They're not listing it anywhere, but you can see, and this is where like there's just so much going on in the background that I myself, I'm getting used to this, but some people get surprised by it. Like in this Never Stop Teaching free portal, I have access to this other new thing called bookmarks. And let me actually use the right word to see, right? So it's not anywhere on the updates list, just being kind of, just kind of sliding into our HubSpot DMs over here. But it's going the route of, adding more customization in that we can, add, I think, up to 5 favorites. I'm not favoriting email. Why would I do that? Talk about disingenuous. Let's say deals. Let's just hit all of our, since we're having fun with commerce objects, can we? Yeah. So we can do 5 right now. Come back to our bookmarks. I mean, and just the ease of use there. It's a hopefully should help some people. You might not have it yet though. You can see like you've seen some posts slowly rolling it out. It's not a beta. You can sign up for anything. So hopefully it comes to a portal near you soon. But this is where if you introduce this to your team, it gives you a new, fresh opportunity to understand how they're using the system and what they actually want to see. Because at the end of the day, when we talk about one record to work from, this favorites list, right, is a huge indicator into what all might need to be on that one record, the data from which objects, right? Now, when you start crossing, if we, I'm going to assume that I can just uncheck it from here. So I'll say maybe, I don't need access to these things, and I'll start crossing but I am a, one person marketing powerhouse, and I take care of my website by myself. So I'll add to my design manager. Let's see, let me throw integrations here because I'm also the RevOps person, because again, one person, we have enterprise HubSpot. I don't know how it's working, but thanks for making it possible, HubSpot. Now we've got these 5 bookmarks, and obviously, that might be a way to guide your team, say like if it's functionally equivalent, or like if it's nearing the same, the same set of tools in HubSpot, like how can we prevent them from the need to, how can we help them not click everywhere, like not click into all these views, right? So love to see this. And I was thinking, as we talked about the navigation last time, I think it's probably harder to understand from the user perspective. I think a big part of why you don't get the customization that you want sometimes is that it can have an exponential impact to support. And if they do go the route of full customization, on navigation, that means that it adds an element of, okay, so before we get started, which hubs do you have? Which levels do you have? And how is your navigation set up? Can we look at that? Right? Because now you can't assume you can walk everybody through the same way because they might have customized something, right? So I know that comes in play when it comes to customization. And when we think about the Salesforces of the world, we don't want to emulate that experience where everybody is different because they can be, and everybody's starting with a blank slate. So there's no standardization. Everything costs a fortune because you have to build in, if you're supporting somebody, you have to build in these mechanisms of getting everything, straight before you, like, so you don't make assumptions. I guess we can get to the originally planned topic, and I'll finish the review, I guess, of why this is important. This is, again, this Never Stop Teaching portal is free, and I have access to Commerce Hub objects. If I set up payments, I can use invoices, I can use payment links, quotes, subscriptions, right? To take advantage of this, I do not need to purchase anything else in HubSpot. No other hubs are needed. Which also means if you already have HubSpot and it's not a free portal, and you have Marketing Enterprise or Sales Enterprise or CMS Pro, even maybe you're just using it for your website, and we start to disconnect these things, like, oh, that's my website, that's where people go to fill in the form for quotes or for like the webinar. You literally, it would take you 10 minutes after payments is set up, right, to add a payment link to the website that you already have. And now you can create transactions on your website without having to add an e-commerce system, right? This doesn't mean you can it's full e-commerce functionality, but you can sure as hell help a salesperson or a service person say, hey, here's a link to check out, right? Instead of going through this quoting process, right? So we've got to get the word out on these Commerce Hub tools, because this is why I'm focused on it. Like, I guarantee this is one of the places that will save the most time while also creating the impact desired by using tools like this when it impacts resell, upsell, and cross-sell results. Like, guaranteed. This is how, like, if you want a quick win, if you've got to see low-hanging fruit, man, this is just ready to be just picked off the ground with no effort, right? And the amount, the way the experience will change for your internal team, like, man, it's just sitting right here. So check it out. It's harder to tell that story when we don't have the map, when we don't show how it impacts, the whole process. So we're trying to move beyond, diagrams like this, and I'm excited to chat with Ian today. Moving beyond in ways like, right now it doesn't include Commerce Hub, so we got to add that. But how are we identifying are we showing pipelines effectively like this? Are we showing association labels, things like that? How are we getting these other elements in HubSpot? And like I said, the unified record view and that effort might be a good way to engage your team on this. Like, and don't be afraid to kind of challenge, right, the perception that like, okay, I understand you want to see all this other data, right? When you're in this one place. But here's what it's going to take for us to do that. We've got to create this association. We've got to add these labels. We've got to add this level of complexity to the system, which we can do. But if you're willing to click on it, and this is where it could be the difference between seeing it here or seeing it here or seeing it over here, right? If you want to if you don't like it over here, right? If you're used to, oh, I'm sure people run into this all the time, right? If you're used to seeing everything in the left sidebar, that's going to force me to set up sync properties or set up a workflow to copy data from one of these places into this object, right? When instead I can just show you the orders card, the deals card, the contacts. I can show you related data right here without moving the data across to other objects. Will that be okay? Right? We've got to get better at having those conversations and using it as a learning opportunity to help people understand how the system is working. Right? So yesterday focused on applying the customer journey to our setup of, we start with analytics event, like a form fill, or even cart building, right? Creates our contact and company, got lead record, moves into deal, quote, and prior to Commerce Hub, that was it, right? We use line items and the product library to help with quoting. But the best we had for onboarding activities was either using tickets in a proactive way or extending the deal pipeline to include post-sales order management, right? Which we just had a long conversation in Sprocketeer yesterday about this. And one of the goals of this education, and as HubSpot moves towards customer platform, deals are built for sales management. The reporting, all the out of the box superpowers are built for sales management, meaning management of the sale, not just, the managers of sales teams, but management of the sale, right? So if you're cluttering that up with operational activities, purchasing activities, get it out of there. You can do it now. You can get it out of there now, right? As stuff like orders come online, as you have invoices, payments, right? Subscriptions, you can get it out of there, but somebody's got to manage it, right? And that's where, usually you create the space for it to be managed. And either you're asking the sales team to do something they wouldn't normally have to do because that's where it exists in the system. At the very least, you're cluttering up their views and reports with it. Or you're asking the operations team or order management or customer success to go and look at deals. And now they're in charge of moving it the last mile, right? You can see, if you think through this stuff, it's so easy to see why we've had such a challenge with CRM adoption. Just create all these barriers to understanding. But what's interesting, as I build this out, there's nothing, we don't have anything over here right now, right? As customer success, as we talk about that more, what I hope to see and what I hope to achieve is that in large part, we have a couple objects, right, that move through stages. So I'm going to just duplicate this guy, right? Yeah. And, all right, and we'll just do that again, right? There we go. Okay, what's happening? Oh, I think I've zoomed in, on the browser and not the Canva map. Modern technology. Okay, so let's duplicate this. So we end up with these other objects. Either they're made anew or, we're staging them, right? That kind of travel and support multiple stages, kind of like deals, right? But we need to do stuff like that on the post sale side as well. So that's where pipelines and pipeline stages and association labels, are going to come into play. But how do we start representing that? Right. And again, one of the places that we're trying to move beyond, like I mentioned, just identifying the data first is our goal with this activity, but then also telling a better story about what's happening. Like, sure, we're going to be able to, highlight pipelines like this, but how many pipelines do we have? When do they get used? When do they come into play? How does the data differ? Why do we need different stages? Why do we need more than one pipeline? All these questions, we got to find good ways to answer. And a good example, if we, let's add some pipelines to the mix, right? And if we come over here and we say, let's do some of this. You know what? I feel like all this could be valuable. Oops, don't want to do that. I want to copy. And this is where so hopefully you can see as you do this, across. And this is why we're not going to end up with one map that we only use, just that one map all the time. We're going to have different layers of the map. We're going to have ERDs so that our technical team can clearly understand how everything works together. We're going to have process maps, and we're going to have the high level journey maps that don't go into detail. Maybe we're done, here at this level. But we got to find a better way to tell that complete story together. So, and as you start to do that, that's where when you're using, the right tools, let's say, or tools that are designed to help you do that, right? I can line this up already since I'm thinking of everything in the context of the customer journey, right? I don't have to, you start to see alignment and how things piece together. So you're not always rethinking and reimagining the entire thing, because that doesn't scale, obviously. But I think what I want to do, since we're going to, just figure out various ways to display this. Duplicate and then bring this down here so that I don't have to scroll up and down so much. All right, let's make sure we got it lined up, and we do. And actually, one more time. And if you ever want to workshop Canva, please don't hesitate to reach out. There's definitely a learning curve. It is a, visual composition tool first. So if you're used to using the other maps, the other mapping tools, right? This is going to be new for you. But for me, I always look at those learning curves as, just another way to build my skill set. And I like change more than most people. if we're being honest. So starting to look at staging, right? And this was a default stage setup, right? So in theory, if this is where we're managing the deal, instead of expanding this to fit it into this context, I actually don't need it to travel outside of here. I do need knowing that the last stage is a handoff, right? But then as we scroll in, right, we start to see our process. And this is where, like, I believe there's a path towards bringing all this together. Again, it doesn't mean we just use the complex version like every time. But if we can have one version where we can zoom out and zoom in, right, to really effectively tell a story in a short amount of time without so much context switching, right, I think this is going to go a long way. So in our case, we've already established that we have two paths, two pipelines effectively. One is a sales management, pipeline. The other is an e-commerce route. So an example of how you might depict that. So this is clearly a sales management route where we have deal stages of, in this case, and we won't go into deal stage best practices today. Just show some different examples. This one's sales qualified opportunity, solution overview, opportunity strategy, opportunity confirmation. At that point, we're doing some quoting. And this is what I hope to accomplish. Like, all of these are predefined processes. So in theory, you're having to click out somewhere else, right? But there's data being created in all of this. And I'm hopeful to find a way to highlight, the most necessary data points. And that's like, just, can we get a little creative with, let's say, if this is the stage, right? And we've got, let's say we just call this stage, quote ready or something like that. And like, we can zoom in here and show some, required properties. So like discount approved. That's probably not a property, but you get the idea. All right. I think there's a path for that if we get a little creative. And again, like, we can go in between and not overwhelm people as we do it, but we can dig down into that. Like, okay, how is our process for approving discounts work? It doesn't work. Okay. Do we need to build it inside of HubSpot, or should we get a CPQ and integrate that? Right. This is our path to those kinds of conversations, where the conversations don't stagnate and just, you feel like you're spinning wheels, every time. You have great conversations, but then you go to the next week and have the same exact conversation where everybody's still aligned on what needs to happen and why it needs to happen, but somehow we cannot move forward, right? I need more people to be not okay with that. Let's make some progress. This is an example of sales management. So if let's create another deal stage here, or another deal pipeline, and let's call that, right? Let's say this is, I'll say the e-commerce pipeline, right? So here, all of a sudden we're in a transaction. So, we might see, like, I mentioned yesterday, we don't even, it's not a deal, but to handle the the abandoned cart situation in the past, the way the Shopify integration worked, it had some abandoned cart stages in here. But with any transactional process, we're not doing this, we're not doing this, right? This might be, we're not doing this, right? We're probably here where like they filled out the form, say for the exact product they want to buy. If they can't buy it for some reason, or they've signaled that they're about to buy it. So like, let's say, they've identified themselves as a high intent revenue opportunity, right? So then, like cart created, and then especially in B2B, often there's like we create another barrier, sometimes good, sometimes bad, but there's an approval. Like maybe they've asked for a discount, maybe they've created their account online, and we need to sign off on their discount as a manufacturing rep, right, before they can check out. But then we go to close. So this transactional approach needs to be accounted for in some way that does not impact, the internal experience related to this. Because what you'll find is that, so many of the tools are set up to try and standardize effectively so that the reporting matters, right? And that you don't have to do all of this refiltering and just adding all these layers of complexity to your reports, which actually that's less complexity than it is just complicating things, right? That makes maintenance of the system so hard. And when you run an e-commerce or transactional motion through this, you're going to skip a lot of stages. Or what I've also heard is we want to, because we need our pipeline reporting to work, or our funnel reporting to work effectively. I've heard of workflows that if a deal shows up as closed won, it gets forced through the other stages. Just so that's the epitome of working for the system instead of creating a system that works for you. So this is just a quick example of like two pipelines that, in my opinion, should be different pipelines. I hope people can, and the difference between transactional, both from a buying process standpoint and the sales process, right? Like in these cases, your account manager might not even get involved. It's like the internal sales, the inside sales team, right? They're handling the whole thing. Or it's customer success. They just come in, it's just a new part, right? They should not be going through all this stuff because there isn't any of this stuff. It's not strategic, it's transactional, right? On the other side, if we were to just, adhere to somebody telling us, well, we try to only use one pipeline, right? And we don't want to, make it hard for the teams to do their job, but we don't really know why. We just know that's not a good idea. So let's build these 4 stages. That should be good enough for everybody, right? That's not, right? You need this friction. You need this consultation. You lose on all that magic that the system can provide for you because you're not making a space for it, right? understanding how long it takes stuff to move through the process, why you close better after this happens versus this other thing. You lose all that granularity when you just, minimize it and try to quote unquote keep it simple for no reason other than let's blindly make it easier, right? In the end, you're making somebody's job harder. And you're going to hurt the success of the team overall. So that's a quick note on pipelines and how they might apply. I'll be honest, I'm happy at how this was able to. I got lucky, right? I didn't know that it was going to come in as the size that conveniently fits in this column. Over time, that becomes more planned and less, lucky. But again, I think if you're doing all these things together, you make the space for luck and serendipity and all this stuff to make your job easier to start to clarify this. But what you don't want to do is misunderstand that you can ask somebody else to participate without them having gone through that process, because you will not get the results you hope for. So building this out takes time. That's what I love helping people with. So if this has been on your list for a while, reach out. I'd love to have a mapping session. And if anybody's open to it, again, mapping this stuff out live, can be fun. We can get engagement from people and help from more people than you might expect. So I hope that everybody has an amazing weekend. I'm about to jump on the super admin training sessions that George B. Thomas has started at Sidekick Strategies, which is why I'm an hour early today. And as you think about your data, as you think about your data model and your data mapping and how your process needs to work in HubSpot, as you click in with excitement into this unified page editor, find the opportunity and let's grow. Have a great Friday, everybody.